Welcome to the podcast, which is all about the world of direct response. Are we on the air? I'm your host, Shawn Wilsie, and for over 30 years I've hosted shows on cable shopping networks, and now I want to be your guide into this world as we look at the ever-changing nature of this industry. We have a wide range of people who listen to this podcast, from people that are in the industry to just observers of the industry to people who are customers of the industry. And it dawned on me that one thing I've never done is actually explained how a product gets on air. And so I want to really go back to the basics and talk about how a product gets on the air, and do that with someone who has had more products on the air probably than anybody else, Manuela Marcheggiani of Isomers. In fact, Manuela, do you have any idea the number of SKUs that you've ever shipped through television shopping? Individual products.
Individual SKUs, not total products.
No,
but just individual SKUs of probably 5,000.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 5,000 over the course of these years, and that's why I guess you're probably the best person to talk to about how you get items on the air, because you've been through this many, many times. Let's just pick on one item. What's something that's been a good seller for you lately?
Our spicules.
Okay, so how did that first get on television? What was it, an idea you had? Was it something the buyer suggested? How do you get that on the air?
Totally, it was from us. It was not a buyer suggestion, but mostly it was out of innovation. So it is basically something that I felt that was going to be good for. It was a good ingredient. It was a good product. So because we do skincare, a lot of it's based on innovation. So there had to be a story there. So this is something new and novel. So a spicule, Shawn, is roses have thorns, right?
Right.
And sea sponge have spicules. So basically, they're the thorns of the sponge in the sea. And we take this as an ingredient. It's silica and calcium. And you put it in a formula. And what it does is liquid microneedling. So how people are doing microneedling or technologies in their salons.
Right.
We take the sea sponge, and it has to be so many parts per million. And it basically creates these microchannels in the skin, makes your skincare work deeper, disrupts your collagen, so it stimulates more collagen. So basically, we had this discovery. We created a formula. We talked to the buyer. We did before and afters. We did all our studies and information, and we basically went out to solve a problem for people. And that's how it went on it.
I wish you could see my face right now, because I'm sitting here grinning ear to ear. It's like, how the hell do you come up with this? It's just, that is so complex, so involved, but it works.
Right.
So you pitched this idea to the buyer, is that right?
I pitched the idea to the buyer.
Yes.
And I said to them, you know how people do microneedling, and everybody knows microneedling. So most people do microneedling. Microneedling is literally like taking a little teeny sewing machine, if you will, with 3 or 4 needles at once, and basically puncturing your skin. So they have to freeze your skin at first. They put some numbing agent on your skin. It costs upward from $300 to $1,000 a treatment, depending on what they put on your skin. It's painful, and there's downtime. So when you talk to somebody about microneedling, but it's good for your skin because it makes your skin have better quality over time, right? So when people hear like microneedling, they're like, oh, I would love to do it, but I can't afford it, or the downtime, or my skin is sensitive, so I'm like, well, what if we gave it to you in a serum that all it feels like is like bubbles on your skin, but it scientifically creates these microchannels, and you end up with better skin without any downtime. And you can do it for literally, $5 as opposed to $500.
Right.
And everybody's like, sign me up. And when they see that, then they want the proof, right? So then we show them the proof, and then we show them the difference between physical microneedling and the pain versus the microneedling in these jars that we can do with the sea sponge.
So now I know COVID changed a lot, and you're probably doing most of this, I'm assuming, over Zoom meetings these days.
We do a lot over Zoom, yes.
Yes. Was this something that in the years past you would have had to fly to Minneapolis and pitch in person to the buyers, or how would that have been handled?
There would have been, and usually when we had a new idea, we would would talk about it and pitch it to them. Yes, in person there would be a couple of times a year where we would do a style out. But usually, anytime you had a new idea, you would try to have a finished product or some kind of proof before you put it in front of them, right? So that it's a very quick, based on your reputation, based on the need, based on the niche, it would be very quick for them to see the value in what you're doing. They can then see how it's packaged or how it's going to translate, what it's going to look like. So even though we may not be there in person, they would need the actual item in person.
Mm-hmm. Was there has to have been a time where you went into one of these meetings, you thought, I have the single greatest innovation in skincare. This product is going to be amazing. We are going to sell millions of these. And the buyer looked at it and just shrugged. How do you handle that?
Well, not very well, usually. How do we have it? You sometimes you just have to, they will buy it based on what they think their audience, how much can you demonstrate? What is the price point? How much can you, what they're up against too, right? So when they are not ready for it, when it doesn't fit, then there's really nothing much you can do, because truly, if the buyer doesn't like it, even if it's the best thing on earth, everybody else will not actually support it along its chain to get on air. It won't have the best promo, it won't have the best position, it won't have the best host, you may not get the good support that you need. There's going to be a lot of things that because you're not an island, you have to work as a team. And so if the buyer doesn't like it and doesn't want it, it's the onus is on you to make them see its value. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have to go elsewhere and create a bit more of a story before you come back and show them the proof and how people do respond. Or maybe you got to really work on your pitch. Like, you really have to work on your positioning, because you need to make, that storytelling, the connection, importance of the product. You want to demonstrate it. It has to have visual appeal. So you're going to have to fill in all of these blanks, You're going to have to fill in all of these spots so that the buyer sees its value, because it has to resonate.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier before and afters, especially mm-hmm. with what you do. Can the importance of a good before and after be stressed enough? I mean, it can make or break a product, can it?
You can talk all day long. I can talk to you all day long. I can sing and dance. I can do everything. It means nothing if I don't have a before and after. If I don't show you we like to call it, TV for toddlers, but you need to put something like a Teletubby. You need to have something big and wow on the screen as a visual for it to be successful on TV shopping. You have to have that proof. You have to show that it solves a problem. It has to have mass appeal. You have to demonstrate its proof. So that is very important, your before and after. So, for example, we just did a recent launch, and the story is fantastic and the science is fantastic. But, everybody sat there listening. The only time they took action and started ordering the product is after we released the before and afters.
This goes back to, excuse me, the importance of the interactivity and finding what people are responding to. As you're doing these shows live, you can tell based on the way the calls are coming in, because there's like a short little lag. Okay, we did some before and afters. All of a sudden, oh, here come the phone calls. So that was a direct response to the fact that you did the before and afters. Is there a clearing factor for those, meaning like legalities? Is someone inspecting these before and afters and saying, oh, we can't use that one, that's no good?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to be truthful and honest, and they cannot be retouched. They have to show up in a raw file format. They have to be the same on both sides. I mean, it's very interesting because a lot of people like to make fun of or poke fun of the industry. They like to say, TV shopping, you're hucksters, or it's snake oil and blah, blah, blah. And that other forms of retail are more legitimate, and I find it very funny because you can an esthetician, for example, or a private practitioner can say anything they want one-on-one to their client, right? You're in a room getting a facial done or having some treatment done. They can tell you whatever they want. There's nobody there. There's no regulatory there. You can go into a department store. Most people are not trained. They're just salespeople. So they'll say whatever they want. You can go into a dermatology office, and just because they're a doctor, you believe everything they say. But none of them are actually regulated like TV shopping. In TV shopping, we actually have to make sure that our claims and our visual and our words are actually approved before, and they are vetted beforehand. So you can't actually say anything or show anything that isn't authentic or truthful.
Right. Who ultimately would be held responsible? You, the buyer, the company?
All of the above, but mostly. So I think what will happen, the chain of command would be that, like the FTC or the standards, advertising standards, as we call it in Canada, they would come down onto the network and they would say, hey, you stop, this is bad. And then the network would say, oh, I know this is horrible. Good thing we're indemnified. Hey, vendor, now this is your hot potato.
Oh.
And if you don't fix it, you're gone.
Yeah.
And that item is gone. And oh, by the way, the customer, you got to refund them all. You have to, as the vendor, refund it all. So it goes back down to the vendor.
Getting back to just getting the product on the air, because we kind of veered off a little bit there. So we've got our product. The buyer likes it. Everyone has agreed. Is it ultimately just the buyer's decision, or is the buyer responsible to someone else to say, hey, I think we should do this?
I think it depends on, and I think that the buyer probably has a team and they have to look at their assortment, because I think the buyer is responsible for a category and they want to make sure that within the category, not everybody is sitting with the same kind of product. I guess there has to be some diversity or some kind, they don't want too much overlap. There's probably a little bit of a checking in, and then it's good to go as long as it meets QA and QC. I mean, there's other things that have to then be approved. So not just your product, but then they have to approve your packaging and all the product information, the quality of it.
Why would they have to approve your packaging? That seems a little silly.
For shipping, they want to make sure. Well, first one for claims compatibility, and then also for shipping, because they want to make sure that it is not going to fall apart. You don't want things that, fail 50% of the time when they go out. So things have to be drop tested. Things have to be compatibility tested. Things have to be compliant with certain states. Like when you start shipping to California right away, packaging changes and the instructions have to change because they have certain criteria that have to be compliant.
What's the time frame from the day you've pitched, here's my new product, to the day it's on air? If all things, smooth sailing, if everything is good.
For Spicules, I think it was the end of August and the beginning of October we were on air.
Oh, so that's not as long as I thought it was going to be.
Well, that's for Spicules. That was very unique.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I have to tell you, with that one, we rushed everything through the system. So we rushed it through, and we rushed even our labels through. But it would probably be more of and we're also the manufacturer. If we didn't have any of those things, if we weren't the manufacturer and we didn't rush it through, it would be 6 months to 9 months.
Okay. Now, not just resting on your laurels with Isomers, everything's going great with that. If I hadn't been sitting down, I would have fallen over when I'm scrolling through social media a few weeks ago from the date we're recording this, and all of a sudden, I see someone I recognize very well in a picture on ShopHQ selling skincare. Do you want to explain what I'm talking about to the listeners?
Well, I'll explain if you actually admit to having worked with him.
Yes, okay, yes.
Before he was born.
Yes, very true. Yes, he was still in the oven. Yep, that's true.
That's right. So I remember us doing shows, and I was very pregnant with him, and you're like, what is going on with this woman?
Thought she was going to pop right there during the live show.
There,
yes.
Right there. Yeah, so that's Shawn, like 26 years ago.
I wasn't going to say that, but yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah. So, so Keon developed his own line. And it's come out of, so he basically debuted his line last month on the network, and his line is called Cold. And he basically took what we do at Isomers and he tweaked it for his needs. So he was able to take the concept, and he kept saying to me, like, I need to. He had very bad acne, and he was getting a lot of stretch marks because he boxes and he works out a lot. And although he went on Accutane twice to get rid of his acne, the acne's gone, right? So he's not breaking out anymore. But it left a roadmap, a really bad one that I didn't realize. Like I used to always think of, because I never had Accutane growing up, so I used to think Accutane fixes it. If you get in early enough, you don't have any issues with scars, pigmentation, old acne scars, and all this other leftover marks, the redness, the irritation from acne. But apparently you do. And so Keon developed a product line. He started picking on all of the stuff that we had at Isomers, and he's tried every formula. And the things he liked, he isolated those, and he said, could I do it in an environmental way? Because he does a lot of boxing and he's very much into gut health and anti-inflammatory, like his diet is very controlled. Like he controls his diet, like he's hyper vigilant on his diet to make sure he's got maximizes on gut health and anti-inflammatory and repair and protein, right? So he wanted to do the same thing for skin. And so he created the cold process extraction method for himself. We helped him with it, of course, in the laboratory. And he created a simple 2 steps for the face or 2 steps for the body routine to clear up any kind of marks that you have on your skin.
And again, going to the importance of the before and after, because I watched part of the presentation, and the before and afters were dramatic. But you talk about storytelling. This is just, you couldn't script this any better. It's made for television, the storytelling that you have right here.
Yeah. And his story, and you know why it is, because it's true. Like this happens for real. Like his need was real. I was actually surprised because, I mean, not to brag, but I never got stretch marks. And so, I mean, I had other things going on, right? I had an autoimmune issue. Like I had other things growing up, but I never had, even when I was pregnant or gaining weight or anything, stretch marks was not in my repertoire. Like obviously it's not in my DNA, right? So I don't understand. I may understand a pregnant woman or somebody who's losing a lot of weight, getting stretch marks, but I didn't understand the growth spurt or the importance of it for an adolescent of a stretch mark, even for your lats or the side of your legs because of, growing or doing squats and things like that. And so opening me up to understanding the importance of that and how it affected his self-esteem and his ability to speak about it. And because, the whole thing that he went through, even though he was a kid in the candy store here at Isomers, he had to still find his niche because that was even more specific, because the new technology of Accutane leaves this behind. But then the new pressure of social media and how everybody's recording themselves working out, and everybody is also put a different spin on it. So his story is very relevant and is very current and is very real.
And since you were working with your son, there's a family dynamic. What was that like, having your son in the office with you?
It's very good, and it's very, I liked it. I personally like it a lot. I think it's amazing because I do think that a lot of Gen Z, for example, his generation, I think they're very lost, and I think that they don't really understand a work ethic. I think that it's very easy for them. A lot of them work remotely or whatever, and they get into bad habits. So I think it's really great that there's a sense of discipline where he has to come into the office, and he actually feels more pressure because he's the son of the owners. So he doesn't want to look like he gets, special treatment in front of all the other staff. And he wants to earn his place. And I think that that's very good. So he works, he actually does work evenings and weekends, and so that he can basically show that he can be a future leader, like that he can be relevant and be respected by his peers that are in the office, but also those that have been around for a long time. So I do think it's a very good place for mentoring for him.
When you went to the buyers at the network with this idea, did they just immediately embrace it? It's like, oh my gosh, yes, this will be a home run, or did you have to sell it on them?
I had to sell it. I had to sell it. Absolutely. I had to sell it. I had to explain its relevance because there's also the other thing of how does this not conflict with your line? Why do we need
Good
this? Why
point.
do we need, like, okay, so he could come on air with you and you guys are going to like tag team, or is he going to take over for you? I mean, that's the first approach. And then it's like, no, he's got his own line. Well, then it's like, well, so are we going to have like get rid of yours and bring his in? Or why do we need both? Like, why? So it actually has to stand on its own merits. And he was very clever in creating something that's all about marks. This is not about anti-aging. This is not about how we're fixing.
Oh, good point.
It's only about marks. It's only about the acne marks, the scars, and the stretch marks. That's it. The anti-aging stuff, the antioxidant stuff, all that other stuff, you can go ahead and use isomers. But if you need a boot camp, if you need a system that you've got these marks because of your acne or your back acne or your exercise routine, now he has a solution for you that doesn't conflict with anything else that you're doing.
I want in the last 10 minutes or so here, the last few minutes that we have, I want to start talking to you about your social media, because that is an area where you have, again, speaking of just scrolling through, I can't open up TikTok anymore without having you as pretty much the first thing that I'm seeing all over my TikTok. And I've noticed an evolution. Before we get to the evolution, but let's just talk about how it started. What got your push into social media, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, about 2 years ago. I wish it was 3 years ago. I wish we were that smart to bring it in. I think COVID, the fact that really what happened was before COVID, when you were on TV shopping, it was understood that you would not go on any other platform, right? It was almost like if you went on to another platform or did anything, you were competing with the network. And when COVID happened, I think a lot of things changed and a lot of people changed, or the industry changed, and the fact that you couldn't travel anymore. I was like, well, what are we going to do? We have stories to tell. We have things to talk about. And I wish I had started just opening up a YouTube channel and chatting. I mean, this is the hindsight, but that's really where during COVID, I started saying, wait, we need to find a way to record and make valuable what we give away all the time for free on TV shopping. Because when you're on air and you're on air for an hour or 2 hours and you're talking about a product, you talk about the product, you talk about the features and benefits, you talk about the SKU and the price point and the call to action. But if you take the sales part of it out and you leave the education part in, that makes very good content. It's very useful. You learn about ingredients, you learn about science, you learn about something interesting. There's value to it. So I was like, it's a shame that we don't have that in a library or have that in the ready where people can start getting little bits of information a minute at a time. And that's where we started doing it. That's where we started creating. I started hiring people at that time during COVID, or just at the tail end of it, when you could start talking to people again with 60 feet between you, and have them come into the office. Nobody was hiring. So I was able to find people very quickly who were specialists or good at social media, and that they were willing to start recording the stuff. And we started putting it up as news you can use.
And one of the things I found very interesting about, and I don't know if this was a conscious decision on your part or not, because there's other people who do skincare lines and I follow on social. Every video they ever do, there's a product in it. They're pitching the product, basically. I can't recall a time where you've actually been holding a bottle of a product, selling to the camera a product.
I don't sell any product to the camera. Actually, that's very true. What we do is I either talk about an ingredient, or I talk about a problem like melasma or acne or wrinkles, and we talk about we answer a question around it. If it's a routine, what I can do with the routine is I basically If it's a routine, what I would do is I would hold some of our product up and show, for example, if you have sensitive skin, use this kind of cleanser. Make sure your cleanser has these ingredients. Use like a niacinamide serum. And then I would say use a ceramide cream, for example. So I try to very much make it not based on my brand, but based on the science. Because, Shawn, when you do social media, people are watching you from Dubai, Pakistan, Abu Dhabi, Singapore, Australia, Ireland. Like this morning, I had Greece, Ireland, Dubai, Shanghai. At 8 o'clock in the morning, and there are somebody was in Qatar, and in Qatar they said, "I wish, you would ship to Qatar." Well, we can't, right? Because there are certain countries you can't ship to, but they could use that information and they can still get the benefits out of the education. And that's where we decided our social media should be. It's about the service that we could provide and the trust, and that we become a resource. And maybe one day they can purchase from us if they want to. But if they don't, we've still done our part to help them be a better consumer and to help them with their skincare needs.
How does it work as the CEO of a big company? Do you have to schedule time to do these things, or do you just say, I got 10 minutes Saturday afternoon, let's just sit down and do one of these?
No, they schedule my time. It's both. It's a little bit of both. So when I do TikTok lives and stuff, I come in from a dog walk or whatever, and I think this is a good time. Let me try. And so on the weekends and on my time, I will just do a Q&A for about an hour or half an hour on social media. And that's just strictly Q&A. But here in the office, they actually have a schedule. For example, this week, today, tomorrow, they want to do green screens. So we're going to be doing green screens where we take some, hideous kind of picture or some scary thing, and I'm going to be standing in front of it explaining what it is and what you can do about it.
Is social media, and again, whichever platform you want to prefer, is it an absolute must for a company to survive, to have the face of the company or at least someone there in social media in some form?
I think if you are a company that wants to have longevity and value, absolutely, because you need to create community, and I think social media does that. It helps you create community. And I think that it's more important than ever because we are spanning so much geography right now. Like most people are still not coming back to work, right? People are still working remotely, so they're disconnected. And we are social beings. We need to be connected. We know for our mental health. We know for our own, sanity and species, we need to be connected. So I think social media allows us some connection, and it doesn't have to be scary. And what we do is not scary. This is why I lament the change of TV shopping, because I think TV shopping is a very important part of our society. I think it's probably one of the only things that won't jar you, that won't scare you, that you can be safe and you can watch without, you can have company, you can learn something, you can laugh a little bit, and it's not intimidating or scaring. It's entertaining, and it's just sad that it's kind of being dismantled slowly.
How does somebody find your videos on social media?
Isomers Skincare, 2 S's. So Isomers and then Skincare on social media. So we're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And we have our own isomers.ca is our website. And what's really great for everybody is if you go to our website, isomers.ca, we have a skin quiz. Shawn, you should do it.
Oh, I will.
We have a skin quiz that we've updated our website recently. So we did that in November. And we have basically put in a system where you can go there. And that was another thing we wanted to offer people. You take the skin quiz and it'll tell you either the ingredients that you need, and if you want, we will give you Isomers' recommendation of product, but you don't need to use our product to get that resource.
Can I win a casserole dish?
Not only that, it comes with a lid.
Oh, nice bonus. Okay. Oh, Manuela, I always enjoy this. You are such a treasure. I appreciate you not just taking time to do this, but for your friendship over the years as well.
Me too. I love you so much, Shawn. This is great. Thank you so much. Anytime.
My pleasure.
Present. A casserole dish. Compliments of added touch cake mix. Turn a great cake into a classic with patisserie classic recipes in every box. Added touch. Your best.
That's the reason why I mentioned casserole dish, and Manuela and I were amused by it. It's been an ongoing joke of ours for, I don't know, about 20 years. I remember telling her about how when I was younger, we used to get the CTV network out of Canada in our home, and they had this game show called Definition. And Canadian game shows in the 80s were notoriously low budget. And that was a prize. If you won the game, you won the casserole dish. And our ongoing joke has always been, not just the dish, you have to win another game to get the lid. So that was the reason for that reference. And I forgot that I had that audio there. So that, in fact, you know what? Since we're closing the show out, we will just, we'll go out this way. There we go. So, hey, listen. Thanks again to Manuela, and thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the show. Don't forget to like, and 5-star ratings, always appreciated on all the various platforms. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You never miss a show. Plus, you can listen to the archive of past shows, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, those kind of things. I hope you'll check me out on X, Facebook, and YouTube at Shawn Wilsie, and on Instagram at SWilsie. Thank you so much for downloading this edition of Are We on the Air?
Yes, I know, Travis. That's why we give such bargains.
Copyright 2024 King Bobby Productions, all rights reserved.